Why should I invest in the US? This is our first episode on Buying America. I'm here with my partner, Joe Farucci, and this is Edmundo Trevino. My first show in English, actually, in this channel. I'm always posting in Spanish. So, Joe, thank you for joining me, and thank you for the opportunity of this partnership. We're going to buy America.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's a pleasure to be here. I know that I myself was a foreign national coming to the United States from Canada. I never realized it at the time, Edmundo, but now I can appreciate the fact that I have a complete understanding of what it's like coming to the U.S. as a foreigner and wanting to get involved in buying America, right? Like buying real estate, buying business. If I had not experienced that myself as a foreigner, I would not have gone through all the challenges and all the difficulties in figuring out, how do you buy as a foreigner? How do you open up a bank account? Some of the things that, as an American, you just take for granted.
Yes.
It's so easy, right?
Exactly. And I'm a foreign national as well, of course. You can hear my accent. I'm Mexican. So this is like the TMEC 3.0 because we have Canada and Mexico actually in the U.S.
Right. So, from up north, down south,
all together. We make this perfect sandwich. So, and I have also experienced that, what you said, Joe, because people might think, oh, you're coming from Canada, everything is so easy for you. It's a different country. And for me, coming from Mexico, different language, different culture. How to open a bank account, how to get the Social Security, how to improve or build credit, personal, how to build corporate credit, which is even more difficult. Nobody knows about it. Nobody talks that there's different scores for a company and then a person. Yeah. And the law system, how does it work? And something that has amazed me so much that I actually just finished an accounting master's degree, the tax system. The tax system is very complex, but at the same time is very entrepreneurial focus. You want to help you grow if you learn it.
No, so here's the thing, right? You coming from the southern part and me coming from the northern part, what's the common denominator here? We both recognize that the U.S. was a place of opportunity, right? And it's very capitalistic. So I would say that the one thing that the United States brings that really appeals to a foreign national, very welcoming. For as much as we see through politics and ideology, some people get the sense that it's not, it hasn't been so welcoming. But the reality is, when you compare the United States to other countries around the world, the United States is very welcoming, very capitalistic. So this is what gives, whether you're coming from like Latin America, whether you're coming from Asia, whether you're coming from Mexico, Canada, people from all walks of life. The one thing that the United States brings to the table that is very appealing is predictability, right? That's the one word right there. It's predictable and consistent. I deal with a lot of clients, Edmundo, from all over the world, right? Foreign nationals. So I've had the opportunity to hear how, listen, I want to invest in a much more stable economy. Both you and I, now being in the United States, you hear a lot of Americans that are like, stable economy. Look at the inflation that we have. Look at the tax that we're paying. But the thing is, you have to almost be exterior to it, and you got to look at it from the outside in and think to yourself, okay, see, like you and I can see it. You being from Mexico, me being from like Canada, we're like, are you guys kidding me? You don't even know.
Yeah,
right?
I have friends that when we talk about like interest rates, for example, and I say, oh, right now they are so high, 7%, and they're like, shoot, I wish we can pay that, because we are on the 14% in Mexico.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about?
No, like precisely, right? So the magic lies in the fact that foreign nationals are given a huge opportunity in the United States. And this is why the United States has such strong appeal from the foreign national market when it comes to business, when it comes to real estate. I mean, there's a lot of talk around the globe about investing in the United States and owning property in the United States. And it's for what I just mentioned. It's predictable. You have stability of economy. And again, and these are things that you see when you're looking at it from the outside. You might not see it, right? As I just said, as an American within the system, it's not as obvious that there is stability of a government. Mm-hmm. There is stability of a currency. For as much as we've been fighting inflation, and we talk about how that's affected people over the course of the past few years. The reality is that in some countries, inflation completely wipes out wealth at a rate and acceleration that is so much quicker than what we see in the United States. So you just have to be able to look at it from an outside perspective and see that there's like massive opportunity and stability of economy, stability of currency, and all those things. That's what makes the United States very, very appealing. And I'll tell you, so I did a while back. I had a presentation that I was giving to people in Japan, and I was talking about how the United States is a really good place to invest in real estate. And I was talking about all the reasons for real estate and why real estate is so good and how you can build wealth and how you could build intergenerational wealth and how I've spent almost 30 years of my life investing in real estate. My dad built his fortune in real estate. 30 years I've had the opportunity. Real estate has allowed me to build wealth for myself and also created intergenerational wealth. I'm talking to this Japanese community, and they're all quiet. And I asked the translator, I said, does this not sound like a good thing? And she goes, well, hold on a second. So then gets back to me and says, no, Joe, they're quiet because they're a little bit surprised. And I said, what in Japan they experience deflation. I go, okay. She goes, so when you're talking about how you've acquired property and then the rental income has gone up through the years, and how inflation's actually benefited you, and how appreciation and the growth of that asset has gone up, that's not what's happening here in Japan. People will buy a property here and then 10 years later, they'll sell it at a loss. So they're very intrigued with what you're saying because that's not what they're experiencing in their country.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, like, for as many foreigners as I deal with and for as much as I thought I knew, I'm never surprised. I'm like, I had not really heard that. I have clients from India who have told me they want to invest in the U.S. because they want more security of the currency and they want to be able to get their money out of the country because they're worried about their government and that just like the stability is not there. But to hear from this group in Japan that because they experienced deflation and they were really intrigued with what I had to say, and I'm like, wow, there's another reason to invest in real estate in the United States that I wasn't even thinking of. Like, we get to benefit from that kind of stuff. Imagine having bought a property 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Like, families in this country have created massive amounts of wealth because of inflation, right? So again, the things that we take for granted, foreign nationals are able to look at it from an exterior position and have a different appreciation for real estate. And sometimes I really get this idea, Edmundo, that like my father came to Canada as an immigrant, right? And, you know, we essentially came to the United States as immigrants. And we can see something sometimes that the local investor doesn't see. Yes, they invest in real estate. Yes, they invest in business. But, you know, sometimes the foreigner just gets to see it from like a different angle. And the appreciation is a little bit different because this stuff doesn't necessarily exist, right, in some of these countries. So I think for those reasons, people look at the United States and real estate is just such a hot commodity. That's definitely a huge.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about real estate, but I was going to mention something you said, and I totally agree. We get for granted like the stable currency that the dollar. I mean, and I know recently we have been saying so much that the dollar is losing value, whatever, but it's still the strongest currency in the world and the more stable. And I remember, for example, 1994. I don't know, you remember, we have a big recession caused by the Mexican economy. And I remember it was called the tequila effect. And that in that 1994 in December, I remember the dollar was like 350 pesos for a dollar. And in a couple of days, it went to 750. So can you imagine how much we lost immediately? And you don't have that here in the States. And then that's 94. And then I remember in 98, I was one of my first jobs after graduating from college. I was a buyer in a company, but I have to quit because it was in a different city. I'm originally from Monterrey, Mexico. And I was driving like across the mountains every day, and it was so risky in winter. So I quit, and my severance paid was like 50,000 pesos, I remember. And the dollar was $10. I mean, $1, 10 pesos. It's the exchange rate. So I'm telling you that 1994, we were at 350. In 95, we were like 7 something. 98, we were 10 pesos for a dollar. Now it's 20. and so we have that, and basically that's inflation because exchange rates are very related with inflation, something that I learned in economy school many years ago. But we have that for granted. Over here, everything is dollars, US dollars, and you can have some inflation, but it's not the inflation that we have in Mexico. So in that recession, I remember that my dad was bankrupt. Pretty much, and he owed money, and the money that we owe, the interest rate went all the way to more than 100% a year.
Oh my gosh!
Can you imagine? Yeah. So, I mean,
those people in this country are complaining right now.
Yeah,
on from like
you don't know what you're talking about.
7%. They're like, oh my gosh, we're on the verge of collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine 100%? So in less than a year, you're going to owe double.
Oh, my God.
It's incredible. So it was very hard to get out of that and so many years working just to pay off. But anyway, what I want to say is that the stable currency, the predictability, the consistency that you mentioned, I think it's one of the main reasons that I should invest in the U.S. for sure. And then you mentioned real estate, and we're going to talk more about also businesses and so many advantages on the tax system and the opportunities to acquire a business or to invest in a business. But you say something which is real estate, and real estate has become very sexy, I will say, for a lot of people. Why do you think real estate gets so sexy for a foreign national investing in the US?
Well, I think, for all the reasons that we just discussed, right? But real estate specifically, and here's the problem. So for as much as we're going to talk about why real estate, the next step, and this is what I'm really excited about, is, us educating foreign nationals, and you and I are going to be talking about a whole host of like subject matters. But the thing is once you understand why real estate, then there's this misconception that you could just do any kind of real estate and you're going to be successful. Like, I cannot begin to tell you how many people have said, I want to buy a property in the United States and flip it. First off, when I started 30 years ago, people didn't even know what the word flip meant. Yeah. I would say, oh yeah, I'm flipping property. And they're like, you're flipping property? Oh, what is that? So I had to explain it.
How do you flip the property?
How do you flip a property? You turn it upside down? No, so, I had to explain like the terminology and the verbiage, and it was so foreign. And now, everyone knows what flipping is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I can be rich overnight. And here's the fallacy. The thing is, yes, real estate will continue to bring massive opportunity. But once you understand why real estate, then you have to know, well, what types of real estate? And, how do I structure it correctly? Because there's a lot of people online that are talking about real estate. They're going into these countries and they're exciting people, and they're discussing real estate and presenting real estate. But then there's a lot of mistakes that I'm seeing people make, and they don't think about this stuff until after there's a problem. And then they'll be like, oh, Joe, how do I correct that? What do I do now? Well, I wish we had maybe talked a couple of months ago.
Yep.
Well, we could have avoided some of these pitfalls, because look, in the United States, the beautiful thing is, unlike many countries, you can buy a property as a foreign national and you could put it right in your name. That's a beautiful thing, right?
In Mexico, it's not possible.
So if I'm a Canadian and I want to buy a property in Mexico, can I put it in my name?
No, you can't.
I'll put it in your name. So the nice thing is, in the United States, you can do that, right? But watch, here's a very simple mistake. People begin to understand and appreciate the value of real estate and what it can do and how it can financially change their life. But then by making these simple errors, it almost is a financial disaster, because we're educating foreign nationals. You don't want to own that real estate in your personal name, even though you can, because the financial consequences through taxing, I've seen in some instances 30 to 40% more in tax because it wasn't structured correctly.
Yep.
So here these foreigners are coming into the United States, and then, they want to pass it on to their heirs, right? Or they want to sell the property, and then all of a sudden they come to the table and the tax obligation is 30 to 40% more than what they should have paid. And they're like, well, how come I wasn't told this? Well, here's the problem. People are being hyped up. They're excited about the prospects of buying. But when you're not buying correctly, or you're not buying the right type, the mistakes that you can make, oh my gosh, they're preventable.
Yeah.
They're completely preventable. So I think this is what I'm really excited about, is not only are we going to talk about why real estate and how it can create intergenerational wealth, but we're going to talk about, well, what are the different types of real estate?
Yep.
Which one is right for you? Because it's not all the same for everyone. Some people are in a different financial position in their life, so they all shouldn't be doing it the exact same way. right?
And that's something that I see a lot in Mexico. For example, you have these people with radio shows, with billboards, with a lot of social media speaking about, oh, you should get a flipping business. You should buy 2-3 houses, flip them in San Antonio, and everybody's going to make money. Well, San Antonio nowadays is one of the cities in the whole U.S. that has more inventory. And very possible it's just because Mexicans are investing so much in San Antonio, Texas, trying to flip houses.
See, and just from what you just said right there, right? There's two issues that I would say. One is you're just generically all across the board telling everyone that this is what they should do. And that's not applicable.
Yep.
It's not like one shoe, right, fits everyone.
It's impossible.
There's a specific strategy depending on what your financial situation looks like in present time. So you're right. Sometimes they're bringing them into the incorrect market. There's specific types of real estate to do for specific markets. And you have to understand that. And that's what we get into, right? Mm-hmm. So like, what markets should you be doing the certain types of real estate? Whether you should buy and hold, whether you should flip, whether you should buy residential, multifamily, we get into like mobile home parks, right? The fund that we built, like there's different types of asset classes, and you have to find what's suitable for you. And we help determine that so that there's a fit specifically tailored, designed for your financial position. And then the second thing is, to the point of you saying these companies are coming to Mexico and they're talking about flipping. Well, someone might be in a position where they're trying to minimize their tax. Mm-hmm. So is flipping really the ideal way, or are you just going to increase your tax obligation? Depending on your estate planning, if you've already created intergenerational wealth, like there's so many tax components and pieces to how this thing should be structured. So I really get turned off by hearing, what you just said, because I've heard it so many times before, where these companies are going into these countries and they're saying, hey, you can be rich in real estate and you should just be flipping, and not specifically tailored designing, to that one investor, right?
And that brings me to a book that I love, and that's Simon Sinek, Start With Why. And I when people ask me, hey, Edmondo, I want to do business in the US, I always ask them why. And they can say, I want to make money. Yeah, everybody wants to make money, but why do you want to make money? And the book says, start asking yourself 7 times why, and you're going to get to the deep reason why you want to do that project in particular. So when I ask them that, some people might say, I just want to move to the US because of the situation I am living in Mexico. Or somebody might say, no, I just want to get some wealth in the US because I already made my money in Mexico, but I'm concerned about this. Some other people, as you said, might say, no, I just want to protect my wealth that I made in India, and because my currency is not stable at all, or we have a lot of inflation and I cannot get that kind of return. Some others might say, I want my son to move and live a different life or something. So everybody has a different reason. How come we can get a formula for everybody that is going to fit them, everybody? It's impossible, as you said, and I love it. And I think everybody has different reasons why. The question here is not anymore, why should I invest in the US, but why I want to invest in the US, and the answer that you have,
and what works for me, right?
Exactly.
So, like, just to reiterate that point, because I can't stress it enough, and it's really important, is people are in different financial stages. So someone who's in the stage of asset accumulation, right, because they're just building, then there's a specific strategy for them. They need to be in accumulation mode. and making sure that as they're accumulating, they're implementing the right strategies. And then you get someone who has already built their wealth and they're in asset preservation mode, right? So two completely different things. You can't suggest the same strategy for someone who's in accumulation mode with someone who's in asset preservation mode and just wants to make sure the person who's in asset preservation mode wants to make sure that they're decreasing their tax obligation. At the same time, the wealth that they built is being protected from the damage of inflation. So look, there's a lot of strategies to this. And I love, right, that at Buying of America, we're not just simply telling people, yeah, go buy a business, go buy real estate, go set up a structure. We're going to get into the how to and the why and tailor design. Like each individual that we're speaking to, they're going to have a specific strategy that works for their situation. So that's really what I'm excited about.
I'm excited as well. I was just thinking that as you were mentioning different strategies, there's people that needs money right away, like cash flow. Some other people is going to run long term and they can wait years before they cash their assets or something. So everybody's different. So because of that, Buying America is going to bring a lot of solutions, a lot of different options. And we're going to, as you said, we're going to show you the how so you can decide how you're going to do it based on your personal situation and your own conditions in your goals. So thank you, Joe. And I think we have to talk too much in the next episodes about real estate. And of course, we're going to talk about business as well, because there's a lot of opportunities on investing on businesses. Actually, I think real estate is a business. I mean, so, and so we're going to be talking about a lot on business, and there's so much opportunity to Buy America.
I'm gonna end this by saying, because I pass this on to my children, and it's a lesson that I learned from my own father, which is it doesn't matter where your starting point is, where your end point is. Never think that you know it all. Never stop learning. So for those that are like listening to this and watching, it's impossible to learn it all in one episode. And I think that's why you and I have discussed, let's continue this conversation. And the more people can be engaged and participate in Buying America, like just the knowledge, when you're surrounded by people that have this knowledge and they know, and you can grow and learn from it, there's no better thing to do, right? And it's the same thing for me. I know it's the same thing for you. I've built what someone would look at and be like, man, Joe, I had built like what you built. Great. I look at my success and I've created intergenerational wealth, but then I still look at those that have done so much more, and I realize, man, there's still so much more to learn. There's so much, to grow. So we're doing a good thing.
Yeah, and we're going to bring more friends, more experts on different different subjects like immigration law and tax law and so many things to learn from the U.S. But I think, as you said, we're doing a great thing showing what we know and sharing what we know so everybody or more people can do it. So this is Buying America. The only thing I ask you today, if you're watching us, please follow, because we're going to have so much more content related with Buying America.